Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Hey, how can you get someone fired for their political speech when you think it's bad for people to be canceled? Let's talk about this idea because it's something that's kind of been coming back around this year. Here's your thesis for the day with this political idea, which is that in an anarchic system, peace arrives through symmetry of risk, not through abstract moral principles. And what do I mean by this? Well, in an anarchic system, a system without rulers, peace arises or peace arrives through symmetry of risk. What does that mean? That means any two parties or any number of parties have roughly symmetrical risk when it comes to engaging in any kind of action against other players, not through abstract moral principles, meaning just because people think something is wrong doesn't mean other people are not going to do that wrong thing. So this is very much aligned with what most people consider the realist political philosophy, rather than, say, the liberal political philosophy, which would kind of dictate that in a state of nature people would cooperate. Rather, it's that people cooperate when risk is symmetrical, and people can be friends. But the baseline is that you have to have a symmetry of risk. So let's imagine that like two cowboys meet out in the desert. Do the two cowboys kill each other and take each other's stuff? No. Why? Because the other cowboy has a gun and presumably has the skill to use it. So you meet the other cowboy and you negotiate what you're going to do with each other or how you're going to help each other maybe find the way out of the desert or find the bad guy that one guy is tracking down. So that cooperation happens because at the starting level, people have symmetry of risk. When there's an asymmetry, that's when you have people taking advantage of other people or harming other people. If you're thinking like in libertarian terms, violating the non-aggression principle, that happens when there's a symmetry of risk. How do you stop an asymmetry of risk? How do you stop other people from violating the NAP? Well, you have some way of enforcing the NAP on them. That is to say, when they break that, you have some way to retaliate. If they're aware of that, then they won't break the peace. So let's talk about free speech. Free speech. It's an anarchic system. That is to say, speech is without rulers, at least theoretically in our sphere. I get that there are practical limitations to it, and we have a government which doesn't really respect that. But if we're looking at speech on Twitter, it's an anarchic system. So from whence did the cancel culture arise? Well, it arose from an asymmetry between those who were leftist and those who were, rightist, those who were conservatives. And that asymmetry was that leftists realized that they could, dox people and call them out and get corporations to fire their employees based on their political speech and their political opinions. So if you are able to do that, then they're going to do that, as long as there's no consequence to them doing it. So that's where the asymmetry arises, is that they can get us fired, but we can't get them fired. So what do? Well, when you're able to get them fired, all of a sudden there's a symmetry of risk. And the truth is, it's just like saying, I don't believe in shooting and killing people, right? But you shot and killed this guy after he was murdering a bunch of people. Yes, but in those circumstances, it was justified to kill that person. And in fact, what we're doing is we're establishing that the risk is more symmetrical. It's really not even close to symmetrical now, but it's slightly closer to symmetrical than what it was in the past, meaning you could get in trouble for your political speech as well. If you are calling for the assassination of Donald Trump, you could get in trouble for that. Just like I could get in trouble for making a joke about boobs or something. Right? So it produces something closer to symmetry. Suddenly that's a shock. Is the person going to continue doing cancel culture speech if they could get canceled? Just like how you wouldn't pull a gun if you know the other person has a gun, there's a lower likelihood of them continuing to engage in that behavior. So what you're doing is you're introducing more symmetry into an anarchic system. There's no ruler. If you don't like that at all, if you don't like conservatives, if your principle is to never let anybody be canceled, then you are either going to accept all of that happening on you. You're being a pacifist in this sense, right? You're being a cultural like culture war pacifist. I don't know what else to call it. You're going to be a cancel culture pacifist, or you're going to ask for the government to intervene and make cancellation illegal. In other words, nobody can get fired for having political speech. Nobody can be like kicked out of the Rotary Club for having political speech or whatever it's going to be. And then it's no longer an anarchic system. Then you have the iron fist of the government enforcing that. Which one do you think is preferable? And I'm presenting this as a question, and I think I can lead you to the answer that I am more inclined toward, which is that it's better to have the anarchic system where you will have to cancel some people sometimes in order for other people to think twice about trying to get everybody fired for their political speech or for making jokes or something like that, right? Like what happened to Richard Dawkins. So I'm leaning towards it's better to have the anarchic system. And why is that? Well, if you have a ruler, right, if you have an archy, then that ruler may change, especially in our political system. So who decides what is and is not political speech matters. The government is not objective. It's staffed by people. Who are those? Who's going to be in those staff positions? Going to be deciding that? The judges, prosecutors, bureaucrats. Well, if you think that there's a high likelihood they're going to be leftist, which most bureaucrats are left-leaning, then you really don't want an archy. You really don't want a ruler to enter that space who's going to be against you. Think about the friend-enemy distinction. They're going to just not enforce the rules against people they agree with, and they'll enforce the rules against people that they disagree with. And so you are in an even worse position where there's no possibility of creating symmetry. The asymmetry is enforced by the government. And that's really what most tyrannies are. They're like government enforced asymmetries. This person can do a thing, but I can't do it. This person can harm me, but I'm not allowed to harm them back. Right? That's a big problem. So if you're trying to decide yay or nay, if you feel like the government is going to be some objective arbiter over the nature of speech, just look at what's going on in the UK now, okay, as far as how they enforce political speech. And even if you're trying to limit it to, we're not going to let people be fired, now all of a sudden it becomes really difficult to fire employees because they can say, I was fired for my political opinions. And that will create all kinds of other unintended effects in the labor market, where you're going to have a really hard time getting rid of lemons if you happen to own a business. And so I hope you never have to deal with that situation of like, how do you get rid of a bad employee? Do you do the auto builder thing where you put them in a rubber room? Put them in a rubber room because you can't fire them. Or do you accept that there are some difficulties with a completely free and anarchic system where people are engaging in hostile acts with each other, and figure out how to rectify that without a ruler? I'm kind of leaning towards the second half. But you have to be realistic about the fact that you are in an anarchic system, and that doesn't arise from principles. Your principle of I don't believe in shooting people has to be discarded when another person is going to shoot you, right? That's creating a symmetry of risk, which is going to create the peace that's going to allow people to actually negotiate freely with each other and be able to cooperate and produce all of the amazing intellectual and economic products that we create together. So generally, we don't want like hostile politics, but it's not, it's not something that you can take away. You have to merely make it symmetrical if you really want peace to exist again. Same thing if you're encountering any kind of hostile actor. Yeah, it'd be nice if nobody was ever hostile, but you have to understand the contingency that some people are going to be hostile with the person. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. I would love to have your opinions on this. I use physical violence to demonstrate this point because it's really easy for people to understand the like right and wrong part of physical violence versus using social consequences, because that's what getting someone canceled is. It's like, I'm going to use social pressure to force this person to fire you or to break a contract or to do whatever it's going to be to have a negative economic impact on you. I'm going to basically attack you in a economic way, not in a social way, not in like I have a gun to your face way. But the principle's still the same. It's really about the symmetry of risk. So anyway, leave me your thoughts down below. I'd love to read them, and I will see you all next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, you can join my Patreon. You get a free book every month. You get free access to all the live rights that I do on the stream. So Get some benefits there. Check it out. It's down below in the comment description. Of course, join my mailing list, dvspress.com/list. I don't send out a ton of emails on that right now, but I do whenever I come out with new books and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Have a good one. I'll leave you with a George S. Patton quote, which I actually don't know is real, but I know it's in the movie, which is, no one ever won a war by dying for his country. You make the other poor dumb bastard die for his country instead. Maybe it's no poor dumb bastard. No poor dumb bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. You make the other poor dumb bastard die for his country instead. So anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you all next time.